happy day. We have a very special guest with us. We've got two-time, my goodness, champion from Forged in Fire to bless us with his presence. An amazing veteran, my goodness, nuclear submarine vet. If you know anything about being a nuclear submarine vet, it's a very small group of amazing patriots that ever get, to that level. Before we get going, though, JasonFinalExpense.com. I partner with some of the most amazing agents to do things like medical insurance and life insurance. If you need help, reach out. But today is going to be extremely special. We have an amazing man here to learn from. And my goodness, if you know anything about bladesmithing, or if you've watched the History Channel from Forged in Fire, he is the real deal. Okay, his knives are amazing. His skill set is ridiculous. I met and was very blessed to meet Ethan on an insurance trip. I was heading to Tucson, heading to Arizona, and guess who was sitting next to me? This great American, phenomenal, and the rest is history. All right, I begged him to make a knife for my wife for years, and then he finally did. He does crazy work. So we're going to learn a lot from him today. There's going to be a lot of parallels. But before I get going, Ethan, introduce, man, here we are. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for joining us. Ethan Lee, amazing man. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really quite an honor. So my name's Ethan Lee. I'm 29 years old. I am currently the owner of Lee Custom Knives. It's a one-man shop right now. I have plans in the future to grow. Absolutely. I'm a 6-year Navy veteran. I was on the submarine force. I was specifically a nuclear mechanical operator. Nuclear machinist mate is actually the name, but you're really not a machinist at all. So I was a nuclear mechanical operator, and then all of a sudden, when I was on a trip down to Tucson for the Armed Forces Skeet Championships, I met you right there next to a plane, and that's definitely the most memorable plane flight I've ever had because you were the coolest guy I've ever sat next to.
Well, it was a fun trip, bud. It was. I mean, it was cool. Good patriot, man. To be able to sit next to good patriots and to good Americans, my goodness, like it was fun. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate the compliments, Jason. But yeah, so I'm a full-time knife maker. I make Damascus. I make monosteel knives. Honestly, I always like a good challenge, and I kind of always try to make something different. But it's mostly knives. I do machining work too. I do kind of a little bit of everything when it comes to metal work. So,
now, how many years, Ethan, if you would share with the audience, how many years have you done this? Because a lot of times with certain industries, right, people think, oh, I'm going to immediately be a grand champion. No, you're not. Okay. Ethan Lee is a two-time champion. Okay. On Forged in Fire. Ridiculous. I'm guessing you didn't just like wake up out of bed and be like, hey, I'm a top Navy sub vet, and now I'm going to just go make knives and it's going to happen. How many years have you been at this?
So I started blacksmithing when I was 11 or 12. When I was around that age, I went to Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. I'm originally from Missouri, and I saw a blacksmithing demonstration. And it was just so amazing to me because he had a cold forge, and like he put a cold piece of steel in, just like you steel like you know it. And then he pulls it out and it's glowing orange, and he's twisting it. He's doing all this stuff so easily. And it just blew my mind that was possible. And so I was telling my parents when I was there that I said, I want to try blacksmithing. And this is before, I'm not going to try and sound like I'm before internet and everything, but this is before it was anything like it was now, obviously. And so my dad knew a guy that he used to work on jobs with. My dad used to be a pipe fitter. This guy was an electrician. I met him and he brought me into his shop, kind of took me under his wing, and I started blacksmithing. Then a few years later, I was reading a little blacksmithing book I had. I kind of wanted to make a knife. And so I met another guy at a banquet, and then next thing I knew, me and that guy were hanging out all the time and forging, blacksmithing, everything together. And he kind of taught me how to make knives, and it's kind of stayed with mostly knives ever since then. It just kind of got me hooked.
Wow. So you had then a good mentor, then it sounds like you're saying you had a good mentor, Ethan, that kind of like guided you, and you didn't weren't like the Karate Kid reading a book and going, okay, I figured it out. You were really it sounds like you were mentored by somebody at a pretty young age all the way through. Is that right?
Right. I was. I'm very fortunate to have some of the mentors that I've had, because it's not really easy to find somebody that is going to spend the amount of time with you that these guys spent with me. And it wasn't just that one or two guys, it was several other people. And I think a lot of it probably that helped was my age at the time, because there's not a lot of young kids around that want to hammer on hot steel, and the old guys see that and they think, wow, that's awesome, I want to pass this down. And so I've had a lot of good mentors in my life.
Absolutely. And in kind of a parallel to the insurance world, mentorship is so important, because it's like you never learn as deeply as when someone else has done it longer than you is investing and just dumping themselves in you, because learning the hard way stinks. Like, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I even tried to do what you do. Oh, goodness. First off, I'd light myself on fire. It would be like Jason on fire. Okay. I'd be like spontaneous combustion guy. Right. And it's like, as you know, it's like I can't even handle certain things without taking my thumb off. We talked about that. We won't go into that story, but talking about, right. So having good mentorship, man, it's valuable. And it seems like some of the younger generation, and this isn't it is what it is, we're just going to spit it. Some of the younger generation, it does not want to be mentored, right? They just want to walk in and say, okay, just show me how to make a knife and don't tell me what to do and don't show me anything. Do you find that sometimes too with people that chat with you a little bit about some of your background?
It just depends. It really depends on the person. Oh, things are obviously a lot different now. Now, I mean, YouTube was around when I was younger, but YouTube is the second largest search engine on the internet. And there's a lot of good information on there. There's some bad information, but there's a lot of good information. And it's definitely a lot easier for somebody to get started now. But there's still, and don't get me wrong, there's no substitute for learning things the hard way yourself, that I'm not going to do that again, because that sticks in your mind better than anything. But it also, having a mentorship really allows you to, you skip some of the potential things that you skip going down some of the wrong roads that you wouldn't normally do. And there's just the little tricks that some of these guys know that can teach you things that can save you a lot of time, save you a lot of headache. And there's no replacing that.
Absolutely. I mean, watching you work on Forged in Fire, and from knowing you prior, before you became famous, and ridiculous, crazy proud of you, buddy. Seriously, ridiculous proud of you. That is, to be able to step onto TV, okay, national TV, go up against just beasts, right? Major competition, and then to dominate and come out as a champion. That's big. And the stress alone eats people up, right? The fight or flight. And obviously with your military background, and you're just crazy, sharp and crazy gifted, but still it takes a special person to undergo a competitive environment and come out on top, right? And that's the thing where how did you really handle that spotlight, right? And keeping yourself as grounded as you are. You're always so grounded and humble with everything. How did you handle that spotlight? How did that feel when you first got on your first show and it was like, oh crud, here I am, right? How was that go? What was going through your mind? How were you feeling at the time?
It was definitely a very surreal feeling walking into the place that I'd seen on TV a million times. And it's like, wow, I'm really here, But at the same time, though, I was really kind of in the zone too, because I went in to win. That was ever since that show became a thing, I just kind of was like, I want to become a Forged in Fire champion. That's one of my life goals now at this point. And so it took me a few seasons to get on, but I finally did. And I'll tell you, I've always loved competition, but I've never liked playing sports. I never did any extracurricular activities really in school ever. I love competing, but there's very, very few things I've ever been able to compete in. There's really only 2 things I've ever been able to compete in. There's really only 2 things. Oh, Skills USA, when I was in high school, I got second place at nationals for machining. It's like a machining competition with speed and accuracy. So until Forge and Fire, that's the only thing I was ever really able to compete in that I cared about. And then Forge and Fire came, and I care about making knives as much, if not more, than machining. I love machining too. And so I kind of went in just wanting to do it to begin with. And yeah, everything just kind of fell into place. The stress really, really can get to you, but you just gotta stay focused on the end goal, and you got to take it one step at a time.
And that's power. I mean, if anybody's taking notes here, if you hear what he's saying, take some notes. Okay. You want to be a champion like him in the insurance world, doing a little different widget that you're passionate about. My goodness, focus on the goal. Take it one step at a time. You guys, we got to focus on what we want. So many times people say they want something and are unwilling to work for it or attain it. And you told the audience here, it took you a couple times to get on the show. You want that win. You focused on it and you dominated it and got it, not just once, but twice. I don't think there's anybody that's a 2-time Forge and Fire champion to my knowledge. And that's pretty stinking awesome. That's not for the weak. Just put it that way.
There's a few guys out there, there are a few guys out there that have won twice. I'm not sure if I'm technically a 2-time Forged and Fire champion. It depends on how you define it, but I did win 2 of the episodes out of 3 that I was on. So
exactly. And you were on the show. Yeah. I don't know too many people that have that resume. Let's put it that way. Very few on this planet. And the fact that you were so honed in on it. So there were times where you attempted, right? And then they didn't let you into the show at the time. Is that correct?
Yeah. So season 1 is when it came out. No, I'd never heard of it. Season 2, I applied, and my schedule was kind of not, I could have done it at certain times, couldn't have done it at certain times. And I found out, well, if they hear that from you, they basically take your name out. After that, I knew not to tell them that. I was like, I'll just pick a date and I'll make it work.
Right.
Then season 4, I want to say I applied, didn't ever get on. Then season 5, they actually contacted me. And if I remember correctly, yeah, they actually contacted me and said, hey, we want you on. So you
just never gave up. You just stayed on it until he said yes to you, basically.
Pretty much. It's actually kind of a funny, the way it all worked out, because I was emailing them. I emailed them a lot, and I don't even remember how I did this, but somehow I talked on the phone to one of the casting agencies, and I'm like, hey, I want somebody to know I'm trying to get on this show. And she actually gave me the executive producer of the show's email. And I'll never forget when he emailed me back, he said, I commend your resourcefulness to getting in contact with me. I will give your name to the casting company. And it was not very long. Next thing I knew, I got an email from him. So
being persistent, everybody, it does correlate to insurance. It coordinates if you want something. Be persistent. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So many people on the insurance side of the wall. I don't know, you don't do insurance. I'm going to bore you. But in insurance, let me tell you, you got to be persistent in the face of the resistance, adversity. If you just give up, you're not going to get anything. You've got to be persistent. You've got to keep asking, right? You're not about being anything more than just ask again in another way. And that persistence got you what you needed. And your hard work, though, got you the win. And that's the big thing. Like, I'm sure you've gone through a lot of heat to get what you want, you know, in the work that you do. It's like, that's a lot of BTUs that you're dealing with and a lot of dangerous things. That's why they put the big warning. Okay. Being a bladesmith, doing what he does. Okay. The master of his space. It is not for the weak. Okay. Like I said, I would be like a human candle lit up. I'd be done. No way. Okay. There's no way. I'm not gifted. Ethan's crazy gifted in this space. Man, like the heat that you go through, does it, I mean, obviously I've seen you work. It's ridiculous, but it's how hot are we talking hot when you're messing? I see your big old gloves and you're going at it and working. How hot is that? Just out of curiosity.
So I actually was shooting with a temp gun my forge earlier this morning. It normally gets around 2,400 degrees inside my forge, and yeah, it gets hot. And I mean, I'm down in southern Louisiana right now. The humidity and heat all together is ridiculous, and it gets hot. It's some of the hottest I've ever been in my life.
So when it gets hot, I'm guessing you don't give up, right?
No, I mean, there's times really unless you want to throw away a piece of steel, you can't. You have to stay with it and finish the forge weld at least, or do something. And I mean, obviously, if it's going to be an actual emergency, you'd let the steel go. But no, I mean, there's times you got to come to an actual good stopping place.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it's nuts. So when you were on the show and like you're in the middle of the tension, because you're timed, you don't have all day. It's not like you can just sit here for 2 weeks and go make a blade. That's a lot of tension and a lot of stress. And a lot of people would crumble in the face of stress. You never did. You shined. What did you do? What was going on in your mind when you were going on this competition? Like, oh, crud, what's this other person doing? What am I going to do? How am I going to finish? Like, what kind of techniques? Did you have any techniques? What was going on in your mind in the midst of that, like, time frame where you've got the clock a ticking? That's stressful. How did you handle that? What was your kind of coping mechanism or tricks that you had to help you come out?
I'll tell you really what helped me more than anything was doing legitimate practice rounds at my own shop. And that's what really gave me a baseline of knowing how much time I have to do this, how much this. That was crucial in coming out the way I did, because like, if you don't do that, you don't really have an idea. And then if something bad happens, you go into panic mode, and that's a bad place to be in competition, period. So I knew I had time stuff, and I was writing, I took notes, I practiced multiple times in my shop for, no money, just the potential chance that I could come out on top in the show. So, I mean, I did no telling how many practice rounds, and that I knew, like, say at 20 minutes, I needed to start doing my heat treat if I was going to do it with a torch, which that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. And that's what a lot of it came down to, really, just good practice. I mean, it's like they say the SEALs that took out bin Laden, they practiced the exact compound for weeks. And when they did it, it was muscle memory. That's really what it was for me that did the best.
Absolutely. And those are such good words. I mean, it's whether you're on a TV show winning as a champion or losing it as a champion, if anyone's paying attention, it comes down to practice, everybody. Practice. It doesn't matter what you want. Practice and drill and rehearse. Do it right. Do it again. Like he was saying, he's doing knives, practicing, timing himself, working on techniques to master it. He practiced. You want to be a champion? Practice like one. I mean, these are nuggets that Ethan's dropping that have very big correlations to what you do in the insurance space. I mean, it's a completely different animal, looks different, but it's the same dog. You got to practice.
I'll tell you what, that a lot of people don't talk about. The mental aspect of stuff really goes a long way. I've never taken it as seriously as I would like to at times, but there was a time I thought about trying to do more competition shooting. And there's a book out there by Lanny Basham, and it's called With Winning in Mind. And he actually talks about, he's a couple-time gold medalist in the Olympics. And this last time that I think he went to go compete, he was a shooter. He only live fired twice that entire year. The rest of the time was dry firing and envisioning his shot. And so a lot of it, I think, really comes down to mental and seeing where you want to be in the future and knowing where you want to be.
Absolutely. That's some wisdom. I mean, because you do have to know where you're going. You got to know where you want to be, and that dry fire and the drilling instead of just wasting ammo. You know, it's like so many people in the insurance space, to bore you again, but they waste so many leads and they're improperly trained. They don't have a coach. They don't have a mentor. They don't have anybody to guide their hands and direct them, and they get burned. You know, it's like me walking into your forge and never having you have my back saying, dude, Jason, don't touch that, man. It's red. It's going to burn you permanently. Don't do it. Like if I go touching something in your shop, right, your forge that's red, is there a way that I'm not going to get burned if my dumb hands go touching it and getting yet another scar, as you know I've got them? Is that a possibility for me not to get burned? I'm guessing it's not.
Oh, what'd you say?
If I go touching anything red without a glove that you gave me, right, would I burn myself if I think I know what I'm doing?
You would still probably burn yourself with the glove.
Exactly. That's where it's like learning from somebody like yourself that knows what they're doing is ridiculous. And, you know, your stress techniques and how you manage that, my goodness, that's a whole nother level. Because when you're in the spotlight, it's easy to lose sight, and you never have. And that's why I've always been proud of you before you became famous and after as well. But my goodness, to be able to even be in a place where maybe things didn't go your way, but yet you're in a place that, you know, we've shared with each other. You're never in a place where you stop learning. You know?
Right. You got to always be willing to learn. I've had people message me on social media and stuff that have seen me post something, said, hey, there's a better way to doing that. And instead of just rejecting them completely and saying like, hey, I know what I'm doing, leave me alone. You never know the kind of advice you can get from somebody that like, I try to never immediately, it kind of makes you maybe think, well, what's this guy trying to tell me what to do? But I'll tell you what, sometimes it's happened and those people have really saved me from doing something else wrong or taught me something that I didn't know. So always be willing to listen to people too, because you never know.
I always say pride costs people more than they know. You know,
Yeah.
it's what's the old adage? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. You're never in a place where you're going to learn and grow and like really get to that next level. And you've done crazy stuff. I mean, the levels of your work and craftsmanship are insane. And for anybody watching this, I begged this man, okay? I begged him for years to make my wife a knife, okay? He's backed up his work. If you look at his website, my goodness, go to eleecustomknives.com. Ridiculous. One of his custom knives is the one in my drawer for my wife. You can shave your face with that thing. It's stupid amazing. But the work that you do is so custom, so good. It's not a cheap knife from China, okay? And it's
right.
hand forged. The craftsmanship alone is just, it's telling. And I had to get on you for quite a few years begging you to, and then you finally did. It's like, hallelujah, right? The doves are coming down from the sky. And, you know, my wife loves that thing. My goodness, like a showpiece in our home. Love that thing. Can't say enough good things about your craftsmanship. And my goodness, go watch the History Channel. You'll see it as well. But the craftsmanship and the time that go into like getting those layers, right? The layering of your Damascus, you know, regardless of the fact that like some of your knives are custom done with holes from a nuclear submarine. That's pretty sweet. Okay. You don't get that everywhere, anywhere for that matter. You know, share with us just like how much like time and work goes into like just forming the layers. I mean, because like the knives that you do, the amount of layers in that is just stupid.
Well, yeah, so in the case of Damascus, which is what you're talking about, layered steel, you start out with, say, between 10 to 20 layers of high carbon steel, and then another high carbon steel with nickel alloy in it. And you stack them up, alternating the layers, and you stick them into my nice toasty 2400 degree forge, and you literally forge weld them together. It's a lot of science to go into, but essentially when there's no oxygen and environment, heat and pressure, you can form a weld between those two steel. A lot of people think of welding like using a welding rod, making a small bead of weld. Well, this is a true full weld of all surfaces. So you might have 20 layers that goes into that forge, but then when you pull it out after you've put it in the press or the power hammer, hammered it all, welded it together, now you have one piece. And so while there are a lot of layers, it is one piece of steel. And the way that you get a more higher layer count is you stretch that out, cut it up, restack it, or fold it. And then if the layers double each time, or depending on how you stack it, you just add up the amount of layers that you're compounding with it, and you can go up as high as you want. But normally I stop around the 300 to 400 layer count region, and you get those nice fine layers. I think that knife you have is around 325. It might be 300 layers. I don't remember. And then it doesn't stop there though. Like for instance, your knife is a ladder pattern. And so the way I had to do that is I make all my layers, all them 300 layers, all the folds. Then after it cools down, I anneal it. I bring it over to the milling machine and I mill in grooves. Then it goes back to the forge, hammer it out into a knife shape. Then I grind, then I heat treat, and getting a knife like really thin takes a lot of time. Then it's after you grind, heat treat, hand sanding. Hand sanding sometimes takes forever, but like that's what separates a good knife from a Chinese knife or any poor quality knife. Some knives you can even see 80 grit scratches in. Mine, you can't. I hand sand everything down to a 400 at least grit, a lot of times 600 or more. And then I etch it in acid, and the acid is what brings out the layers to where you can see them. And then you're only about halfway done there. You still got a handle to put on. You still got a handle to fit. You got to grind it, finish it, and you're still not done. Then, I mean, in my case, I make my own sheets too. So then you got a sheath to make. And so there's really, many hundreds, sometimes over $1,000+ goes into a knife, but there's so much time. Like, and it's not even just the time, the equipment I got to have to do some of this stuff is insanely expensive. And you got to do it because you want to do it, because you like it. You're not, it's kind of like racing, the way to become a millionaire racing is start out as a billionaire.
Right. And it's true. The amount of machinery, oh my goodness, in your shop is just ridiculous for people. My goodness, check his website out. Stupid level of equipment. Just jealous of you. If I knew how to use half of it. But it's like, but the level of work, it's like just when you think you're done, you're not done, right? And then you got to get the layers. Now you got to do this. Now you got to do this. Now you got to do that. And it's like this. Once you think you're done, you're not, and it's like, but the finished product though, my goodness, the edge work, most knives will lose their edge and you can educate our audience why a knife loses their edge, probably because it's a piece of garbage. That's my 2 cents. But you can give us a more technical answer. But you get a cheap knife, and it's like just doesn't hold the sharpness. And your knives, my goodness, they are like a scalpel. It's stupid. Like you get near a tomato and it like falls in half, crying for mercy before you even touch that thing. And but it's quality, right? You get a quality product and quality training, and the amount of work that you put into a blade compared to somebody else that takes shortcuts. If someone were to take a shortcut in the process, would it give a result? Obviously, wouldn't make a grand champion, wouldn't happen, but would it give a result that would not have the same end result?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, the biggest thing that separates a handmade knife from a factory knife is really the precision of the heat treat. A lot of these knives are made out of the same steel. Knife steel is knife steel. Now you can go on forever about chasing whatever the best knife steel is, but in general, most of these knives are made out of very similar stuff, but the precision of the heat treat isn't the same. So, I mean, if you decide to just guess at something, or if you decide to just take the easy way and not get that little 880 grit scratch that no one would probably see but you, it really says something about you. And it really, that's kind of what sets apart knives that sell for over $1,000+ for the ones that sell for $100, $200 is the amount of time and the care you really take in it. Because, you know, when I put my name on a knife, that's like to me, when I put my name on a knife, that's the same thing as a plaque having my name saying I accomplished something. And I want the quality in my work to reflect my name as being a good name, good brand.
Absolutely. And your work shines. And that's, if anyone's paying attention, what he's saying here is your name means something. Like when you're done with your day, be ready to stamp your name on that day. Did you do everything you could in the insurance space? Did you handle that prospect the best way humanly possible? Can you stamp your name on it? If you're proud of everything you did, great. If you can't stamp your name on that call that day, then focus on getting better. That's all it is. You want to be a champion? Just focus on getting better, folks. Take notes. He can teach you a lot about insurance, and he doesn't do insurance. Okay. Got a lot to teach you here. So no, I love that. It's like stamping your name on that. And it's like, I love when you started doing your knives and actually like putting the Ely etch on that. That was money.
The logo,
you know? Logo's awesome. I love that shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Sport that shirt. But no, it's the knives, and I'm a connoisseur of nice things. Okay. Like knives, and my goodness, like the attention to detail that you talk about is just stupid. Not only the balance, but to be able to get a blade with that many layers, like you're talking the ladder pattern that you do for me and for my family, which I really appreciate. But even like the thinness of a blade that you made for me, that's not easy. Okay. It's not easy to develop a blade that thin. It takes a skilled craftsman that's had years and years and years to accomplish. And I've never seen a blade that thin and that just money as what you did.
Yeah, it's really not just the fact of getting the blade too thin, or it's not so much getting the ability to get a blade that thin. Really, it's being able to be careful enough to get it that thin without heating it up too much, which would ruin your temper, which is what's going to hold your edge on the knife.
So the tempering process, what does the tempering process look like for some people out there that don't have a clue what tempering means? Like, what does tempering do? Is it like, can you explain that real, like in
broad terms, when you heat up a knife to around the non-magnetic range, depending on the type of steel, you quench it in the correct quench medium. You pull it out. After it cools down, that thing is now hard. It's brittle, like comparable to probably glass. It's brittle. If you drop it, it may not break, but it might. It's hard. So when you temper it, you actually put the knife back into heat in an oven, but not as hot. I'm talking the 400 to 500 degree region. And you hold it in there for a while, and it helps that's what actually draws a lot of the hardness out of the steel. So the knife is still hard because that's where you get your edge holding quality, but it is also tough. It's tough enough to be a knife. And that's important because you would get a really good edge holding out of a knife that's just hardened, but if it's not tempered, it could break.
And that's huge. So it's that low, slow heating up after the fact that really gets it that tempering that gives it strength. Is that right?
Right. It's what draws some of the hardness back. And so now it's not as hard. It's still very hard, but it's a little softer and it has toughness now.
No, that's good. Because it's like a lot of times you need, if you don't want a brittle, like he was talking about in the blade, if it's not done right, it's brittle. It's like glass, it can break. And in sales or even under stress, a lot of times you can snap if you don't have that tempering about you, right? You don't have that mindset of winning. You don't have your mind on the goal, the end goal. You can give up, or you can just be in a place where you don't have your control, right? And your technique, your scripts. It'll mess you up in the insurance world. And goodness, I don't make anything like you do. Forget it. Okay. I'd be like glass guy blowing my hand up and, not good. But yeah, so the tempering process, that's crazy. So you've got things so dialed in over there.
Yeah. And you do learn a lot from doing it. But I mean, normally the heat treat recipes are pretty much what you want to follow, but being able to, the more precise you are about it, the better the metallurgy, the makeup of the steel is going to be, the better everything is going to be. So that's what the factory knives kind of struggle to produce. They're heat treated in a big batch. Some of the knives might be harder than other knives, and a lot of it really comes down to grain structure of the steel. So the factory knives, they're done in a big batch, not the care is taken. And I've read books on it about heat treatment, and really the precision of the heat treat would do more than most people would believe, because that guy actually used a specific example in his book. He said 2 drill bits that you buy one from Harbor Freight, you buy another one from MSC, high quality, or McMaster Carr or something, a good American made drill bit. Both those 2 drill bits are likely made out of the same steel, but one of them has a more precise heat treat, and it will outlast the other one by about 3 times the life. And they're the same steel. It's just the amount of, again, it goes back to what you've been talking about, the care you take, the quality, and you get what you pay for when it really comes down to it.
And that's the truth. It's like whether it's a drill bit, right? You buy a cheap, drill bit and buy 5 of them, or buy 1 and be done, right? Quality is so important. I got a funny quote. I don't know if you've heard this either, so I'm gonna give you a quote. All right, I'm
excited.
Quality is like buying oats. If you want nice, clean, fresh oats, you must pay a fair price. However, if you can be satisfied with oats that have already been through the horse, that comes a little cheaper.
I like
Quality
that.
matters, people.
Right.
It just does. Doesn't matter if it's the quality of your mentor, quality of your steel to make blades, quality of the craftsmanship, quality of the agency that you hang your hat with insurance, or a script that you use. It's like, free scraps of stuff that you buy, I'm guessing, are not going to be the same piece of steel that are going to make what you make knives for. It's got to be quality and actually like time of investment that you've put in, the countless hours that you put into each knife. I mean, even to the details, like the devil's in the details, like you're sharing with us with everything you do. It's like even in the stitch work that you do on the sheaths that you do out of leather, and then you do the custom little, everything's just, it's as it should be. Like the details are not missed. You're so good at your little attention to details. And
thank you.
That's what separates, a champion from people that are sloppy. The little sloppy things can get you, right? And accidents can hit anybody, right? And little accidents, little snafus can happen, but did you overcome them? And like, I love, watching you win. But at the same point, like, one thing I'll share with everybody in the audience, I'm extremely proud of Ethan's character. Okay. Character doesn't shine when you win. Character shines when things don't go your way. Character shines when you've been in a position where maybe something didn't go perfect, right? And you overcame it. And just to see your character as you've transformed and grown, and, even in the midst of, a snafu on one thing where it's like some stupid little thing through really wasn't a big deal, but it was like, yikes, stupid, dumb thing. Your blade was still the most beautiful blade in the room, period.
Well, thank you.
And you're like, anybody go watch the episodes, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay. Gorgeous. Okay. Compared to everybody else's stuff. But his humbleness too, about how he took that with such strength in a case where, okay, so didn't take that absolute win that day. Right. But, your humbleness is saying, hey, you're still uplifting others, and then I'll be back again. Let's go. Kept a smile on your face in the midst of it. Where did that come from? Like your inner core, where's that come from? Was that like your father? Where'd you learn just to be such a man of character to handle all that, like the defeat, the stress? Like, where did you learn all that? Is there anybody or anything that you would attribute that to?
I don't know. It just kind of, I guess you could say I listened to the teachers when I was in school, and they said, hey, be a good sport when you lose. And it's really like, I think that you can turn anything into a learning experience. Like I knew doing what I did on that show on the last episode, like I knew better than that, but at the same time, you really aren't seeing everything that was on camera. There's other things that went into it too, and I was in a little bit of a desperate situation. But I mean, it is TV, and you got to remember that it's for an audience, and yeah. But to answer your question, I'm not really sure where that may have come from. I mean, I appreciate the compliment. I'm glad you see me like that. I guess it's just one of those things I've been taught when I was younger to be a good sport when you lose. And
well, winning matters, right? Winning does absolutely matter. That's why you're a champion. You know, it's like winning does matter, and it feels darn good. It does. It absolutely feels amazing when you win. But then you have the small seasons. I'm guessing it doesn't feel great when it's like, oh, right? But
yeah,
some people, they would leave a show like that, and there's so much that's never seen on a show. But some people would have that happen, and they're either a sore loser or they act like they're weaned on a dill pickle. They're like sucking their thumb and like, oh, right. And it's, that's why, it's a very small group of men and women that are ever, selected to be a nuclear sub vet, for example. That is very rare. I know 2 in my life.
oh wow.
Right. But very few ever make that. I mean, you go try being on something like that where they shut the doors and you're claustrophobic. Yeah, you're a special person. Just saying. And working on something like what you work on, that's stupid. Like if it's done right, it's great. If you have a margin of error, people can die. And that's crazy proud of your service to our country and everything that you stand for and everything you've done. And even in your personal work here, it doesn't seem like you're ever in a place where you've stopped learning. You're always humble about things, and I respect, about you tremendously. And, it sounds like you're still learning even today, where you're learning new little things. And
oh yeah, absolutely. All the time. I'll go to a hammer in sometimes, like that's like a big get together for knife making and teaching knife making to other people. And I still learn stuff all the time. There's a lot of things I don't know, and something that a recent instructor has taught me in some classes I'm taking is that it comes across to people way better if you just flat out say, I don't know, I've never come across that. Let me look into that and get back to you. It comes across way better to people, to customers, to anybody when you have that kind of approach, instead of just kind of making up something on the spot and saying it just to answer the question. Because people in the audience, whoever you're talking to, your customers, whoever, they know when someone's full of it. They know. And absolutely. Being authentic, I think, will get you farther than most anything else. Because you can kind of tell when you meet somebody that's like, that's what causes people to go with somebody else that's a higher price, or somebody else that's this. It's not necessarily the service is better always. It's that guy seems authentic. And I think that goes a long ways.
Absolutely. Like authenticity, it's big. I always say when I train people across the nation, I do seminars, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's fun. I love it. But I always tell people that they're not my human sock puppets. They've got to be the best version of who they are. And what Ethan here is sharing with the audience is power. It's like, you've got to be authentic. You've got to be who you are and just be the best version of what that looks like. Like, you're never going to be in a state of perfection. You're in a state of really good proficiency, and then perfect that, but once you think you've arrived, you haven't. I've done this a lot of years. I'm still not perfect. Trust me. And if you think I'm perfect, go ask my wife. She'll tell you, right? Go ask Ethan. He'll tell you I'm not perfect. Him and I sat on a plane. I'm like, hey, you want to see something stupid? So yeah, perfection. Like, if you think you've arrived, you're already going backwards.
That's one thing I heard. I heard a long time ago that professionals, let me say this right. Experts think they know everything. Professionals know that's not possible.
Wise words. Wise words. And it's so true. So, with your, do you ever still face obstacles now, like with running your business and little stupid things that kind of like take your time up or suck you away from? Do you have like any techniques for your time management or some things that maybe you do different or better? I know it's totally like random question, but I'm just curious if you got anything that you do.
To be honest with you, a lot of that I'm still kind of trying to figure out, but I'm kind of, things get easier as you learn how to do them. Like the very first year I filed my taxes, because I wanted to do it all myself. I wanted to do that because I thought, no one's going to be able to get me as many tax deductions as I am. No one's going to care as much as I am. And so I wanted to do it all myself. So I spent several days on TurboTax on the computer, calling people I knew, learning how to do this stuff. But that really has benefited me because now there's so many things that I know just about taxes you can go on forever, but that really, I think there is a balance of knowing what your limit is on what you have the ability to do, but also it really helps to know other things and know how to do multiple things.
Absolutely. And nobody cares, I'm guessing, more about your business than you do, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Nobody.
I mean, you took the bull by the horns, but still it's like nobody cares. This is your baby. It's like you do so much work. I mean, you're holding the world on your shoulders. I mean, but you've been doing that before when you were a nuclear sub. It's like you were holding your shoulders to that, but it's like you're on a whole different level here where, now you're dealing with everything that you're doing. You're balancing so many things well. And, we all learn. I'm still in a place of learning myself. So, that's powerful. And then like when you develop your brand and like even with your logo, was there a point where you're like, that's my logo? Like where did you have a brainchild for your logo? Anything of where that came from?
I sat and thought about it a while, and my logo, there's a little bit of a meaning to it. So you can probably kind of tell it's derived from the American flag, because my brand, I want it to stand for American made. I'm huge on that. And the star is out of a Turkish twist, out of really just a twist Damascus pattern. And then it's my name. But it's one of those things that it's just like they say, like with Nike, it doesn't matter what it is. And it doesn't matter really pretty much anybody, you see that little symbol, oh, that's Nike. But I kind of, and I had a lot of people actually tell me, they said, when I came out with my logo and showed it, they said, I love your logo. And some people said, yeah, that speaks America. And that's what I wanted.
Absolutely. I mean, it does. I love that. I was curious. I think the audience would enjoy that too. It's sweet. I love it. And it's like that, just the care and attention and the perfection that you put into your work. You are a perfectionist. You do dang good work. And a lot of people do cut corners, right? Just like everybody in insurance, you cut corners, it'll cost you more than you know. Okay. You cut corners, it'll cost you a lot of things. You're going to either get injured or you're going to pay too much for leads if you do insurance, and you're going to get hurt that way. It's going to cost you one way or another. But the accuracy that you do and the time and love that you put into each blade, and even in your logo, just speaks volumes. So going into that, the level of work that you do, and it sounds like, is this definitely, I mean, obviously we've talked, it's your passion, you dig it. When did it spark for you? Was it like when you were 11 and first started doing it? It's like, this is my thing. I love it. This makes me come alive. When did it like crank off for you in your head? It's like, I just want to make blades. I really want to do this. I want to forge. Like, was there a time in your life where that fire went off within you, or is it something that was on your mind at an early age?
In an early age, there was a time when I was like 12 or 13, I was going around saying, I want to be a blacksmith for a living. And then there was a lot of people that were telling me, like, blacksmithing is a thing of the past. You can't be a blacksmith. I mean, and like I said, like, knife making and blacksmithing since Forged in Fire actually came out, I've grown so much. I never could have envisioned this, and so a lot of people would say that, like, and kind of say, well, that's really not possible. And so for a while, I kind of listened to it, and and going through school, now you're pretty much preached to, you have to go to college, you have to do this. Well, I knew I wasn't really probably a college material. I probably could have went through it, gotten good grades, all that, but I didn't really want to do college. So I went to school for machining to learn a trade. And then, as I went through that, and then between my first and second year, I had an internship at a nuclear power plant. And that's what really drove me to kind of join the Navy. And so there was a time I thought, well, I could maybe retire out of the Navy. Then I got there and it really wasn't my thing. And it's so now some of my things I'm most proud of were in the Navy. Graduating nuclear power school will always be my most proud accomplishment of my life, even more than Forged in Fire or anything, just because it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. But I was in the Navy, and then once I was in training for about 2 years of my entire Navy service. The nuclear training is a lot. And then once I was actually working on the boat, I just kind of came to the realization, like, this is not really what I enjoy doing. This is not me, nuclear splitting atoms is awesome and all, but it's not me. It's
right.
So I got out of the Navy, and then I got a job for Nucor Steel, which is the largest steel producer in the United States, whose stock is amazing right now, by the way. And I sold it out way too soon. But I worked there, and again, I just kind of kept thinking, like, I'm gonna have a regular career, and I'm gonna do knives on the side all the time. Well, then again, I just kept having these realizations. Then I finally just realized, all I do in my free time is make knives. I don't really do anything else. Like, I might as well, like, I'd like to go fishing again and stuff every now and then, which don't try to go into business for yourself and think you're going to have free time. Understand that several years you're going to live at your business. But I just kind of finally realized, like, I've got to start doing what I enjoy. Life's too short. And I will work 10 times harder at making knives and be 100 times happier than working half as hard. It's just kind of, you got to realize, you got to know what you want, I think, is what it comes down to.
And you
got to be true to yourself too, because I think for the longest time I was trying to listen to what other people told me, but I think the entire time my gut knew what I wanted to do. And I guess I wish I would have had the guts to actually do that. But I think that society, the way it works, really kind of tries to tell you need to fit into a mold. Well, you don't.
And that's huge. I mean, even in the fact that you had all those naysayers be like, you're never going to do it. It's a great hobby. You can't make a living at it, and then you prove them wrong hard by just following your passion, trusting your gut, not giving a lot of attention, sounds like. I mean, I'm sure, obviously I can tell him just chatting with you about it. It does, like, the attacks that go on in our human heart, right? When people tell you you can't do what you love, go be a slave somewhere here, right? You go be a slave. Life. And it's like, I even get agents, that work at certain agencies, like, oh, you can never make it in telesales. It's assaults of what you want to do, right? They tell you that it's not possible because they don't want success for you. They tell you can't make it as an insurance agent because they don't want success for you. They want you to be locked down in the chains of the job, the W-2 slavery, where you have to ask a boss if you want time off, right? It's stupid. Yep. And even, I love the fact that you're like, hey, do what you love, but be prepared to, really work at it like you do. And the work that you put in, it's a lot of work. It's not for the lazy people, but look at what you've accomplished now. And it's like, you've proved all those people, the naysayers, the folks that are just kind of cancerous in your ear, good people, but they They mean well, they say wrong things. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, what's my name? You're more humble than I am sometimes. So, which I appreciate about you, but still, it's like, now you're in a position where it's like, boom, now you've got this crazy custom corporation. You're doing high-end work. You're on a whole different level as a champion, doing the forge and fire and just the work and, your reputation always, goes in front of you. And it's always such a pleasure, to have been friends with you first and then to watch you grow and then watch you accomplish things and watch you win. And, kind of funny. It's like, I'm just an insurance agent. Okay. I run a national insurance agency, and here you just never know who the good Lord brings you together with. It's like, as you and I are just on a plane. Okay. We weren't in first class, were we?
No, I mean, shoot. I mean, that's the only time we've ever actually seen each other.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I think you never know who you might meet.
It's the truth. It is like, here we are on a plane and coach, and it's like,
Yeah.
we're together, and the next thing you know, you stay connected, and it's crazy. And it's this world is small, and let me tell you, it's very small at the top of the mountain. Ethan is definitely at the top of his mountain in his space, and still, okay.
I'm glad you think so.
Anyone that says bull crap, go watch Forged in Fire and go watch a couple episodes with this great American on it, and then get back with me in the comments. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, everybody thank me later for watching. Ridiculous, but just like the level of work that it takes. I saw some of the other competitors, some good people, some sloppy work in comparison. Good people, definitely sloppier in comparison. Like the finished product, even though your time, precision matters. In a competition, precision does matter. Like even my boy was sitting there like, dude, Dad, look at his handles. Look at that work. It's ridiculous, right? Like it's crazy, like craftsmanship, right? Because you knew what you were doing. You put the time in. It wasn't like you just arrived with a, bag full of Harbor Freight junk. Sorry, Harbor Freight. It is true.
I'm not sorry.
Right. It is what it is. Call it putt. You want to buy it 3 times or buy it once,
Right.
I don't know. I heard, one person tell me in the insurance world, it goes, hey, we don't buy cheap toasters from China. Like, truth, it's the truth. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. And what was like your biggest takeaway to share for the audience? What was your biggest takeaway when you've been on the show like that? What was like your biggest thing that you left that you're like, oof, that was my thing? Was there anything that was any aha moment or anything of victory or something that maybe really stuck with you?
I don't know. Oh, well, actually I do. My first episode when they were doing the barbarian sword testing, probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever been given. And it was really given to me and my competitor because we both made really, really nice swords. And Doug Markita from the show came in with what we called the green room. The green room's just it's a room where you're just ready to go whenever they call you. You're just waiting, hanging out. And during testing, Doug walks in, which, he's basically a registered badass.
Oh, he is. That guy's.
But he's a really, really nice guy. And he came in just to tell both of us, he said, hey, it was really a pleasure. Both your swords were a pleasure to wield. Thank you. And he said, he said he had never come in and told anyone that before. And that was on season 6. And you're talking about a lot of episodes, a lot of seasons that the guy that has seen every single weapon that's come on that show. And that really felt great to me for him to say that. So that's my favorite takeaway from the show, I'd say.
Well, I love that. And that speaks character. And that's, once again, to your character, brother. Seriously. Picked up that from you right away. It all speaks to who you are at the core, your authenticity. Can't even talk today. See, I'm not perfect either, people.
Right.
Blah, 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 right? It is what it is, everybody. Be more proficient. You're not going to be perfect. I'm not. Okay. Own it. So it's one of those things, to have somebody like that you're right. That guy is wicked, crazy, skilled with his knife work with it. You notice his karambit. He holds that guy. Watch him on YouTube. My goodness, people. Wow.
Oh, he could cut you up and you'd be bleeding out before you even knew it. But he would never do that to you because he's a really nice guy.
He's such a kind guy, right? But some of the most kind people are the most dangerous people in the room, right?
Yep.
They are. I always say, like, you know, in the middle of a bar fight, the last person you need to ever worry about is the one that's mouthy. The one you got to worry about is the one that smiles at you and just keeps walking your direction. It doesn't say a thing. If that happens, seriously, people, run. Okay, run.
Yep.
And it's like the mouthy people are the ones, and he's so humble. You know, I love that dude. And then the way he says "kill,"
Yeah.
like, you got to tag that. It always cracks me up, right? But he's a humble man, but yet that's a huge compliment. And they don't hand out compliments for nothing, right? Just like for me, I don't fluff anybody's feathers. Okay. If you're a good human being, we're going to talk about it. If you're not, okay, I may not say anything, but I'm not going to say something that ain't true. It is what it is. So character matters. And that's huge. That's a huge takeaway and huge compliment from that. And, you know, I love the way that even, you know, when you didn't go all the way to the top for one episode and you didn't win it, and just the way that you carried yourself with respect and courage and just the good sportsmanship and just good way about you. Not everybody handles himself that way. They don't. I mean, it's a tough thing to lose, but to lose right, I'd rather lose right than to lose wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that matters more than winning, and winning matters, but how you lose, that does matter too. And I think in the insurance world, a lot of folks, sometimes we can be, you know, victim, right? If we don't know how to win well, then sometimes we don't know how to lose well. And you got to lose well. You won't get everything, right? Like, just like he's an absolute champion, is a beast in his space, but I root for him every time. He wins most of his things, but every now and then, guess what? Stuff happens. It happens. It's out of your control, right? Things happen. I guarantee you probably didn't see that little thing going off, right? Dinking on the floor. Did you see that coming before it happened?
Well, it's kind of funny you ask about that, because the two guys I was on with, it was in the back of my mind. But after we finished our second round, one of the guys was saying about how, one of the guys in my episode, his pommel came off. Then I said it out loud. I started thinking, oh gosh, I hope I don't lose my pommel. Because I thought about how I welded it on like that, but it was kind of a desperate thing. But anyways, I mentioned it. Then, I mean, 3 veterans, 1 Army, 1 Marine. Naturally, they just started saying, oh yeah, your pommel's going to fall off. Just joking with me about it. I mean, and it didn't end. And it just went on. And I'm like, guys, I'm really worried about this. They're like, dude, you're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen. Then the very first swing. So
you mean military and good Americans actually talk smack? No, I mean,
yeah. Right.
Right.
It's kind of a joke between us. They actually felt horrible as soon as that happened. They looked at each other like, oh no, this actually happened. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be a joke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a cool thing. Like, you know, going on a show with good people like that, and you know, all the smack you talk, but at the end of the world, they're like, oh crud. You know, it's like you want to win. You don't want to win by like 10 miles. You want your other fellow patriots to do well. And there was 8 of us total that went into that whole series, and and 3 of us now. So Mike, who I went up against in the duel, and then also Garrett, who I was in the final round with, we actually just started a podcast called Enlisted Craftsman. And so we're all 3 knife makers, and we all talk about military stuff, knife maker stuff, and we really have a lot of fun doing it, just doing the podcast. And so we started that, and who knows where it's going to go, but right now we're having fun just meeting once a week. And I love that. And we're going to put that, everybody, in the description of this video. So feel free, like, subscribe, share. We're going to put his website, all of his contact information, his podcast information, all that's going to be in the description here, folks. So you've got that as a resource to fall back on as well. Just go, my goodness, just check out his knives. Go window look. Your eyes will be like, oh, okay, it's crazy. Okay. And you'll see my wife's knife in there. You'll have to figure out which one it is, but yeah, it's there. So it's custom work. All right. It's crazy. But no, the podcast is cool that you're like hanging around other winners, right? I mean, that's kind of cool. It sounds like you're still building, you know, more relationships, and the podcast to be able to, does that help you a lot to be able to just gain just perspective with different winners like that?
I think so. I mean, it's so, I mean, like I said, we're really just having fun with it right now, but I'm really anxious to see where it goes, because it's one of those things you can just relax, turn it on, and at the end of every show, we have funny military stories. Just be prepared for some of them you might hear, but we always have, we're always ending every episode on a high note like that, and it's, some of them are pretty funny, and we're actually requesting other veterans to send us some, because everybody's got funny stories, and we try to do that every episode. We have a particular topic every episode we discuss between the three of us. In the future, we may have guests on every now and then. We haven't really talked about that a whole lot, but it might be possible. So
I love that. Love that. And anyone needing that, the information will be in the description here. But that is solid. I mean, the podcasts are fun. I mean, in a world of scriptedness, right? You know, in a world of, oh, you must go to college. In a world of, oh, you must W-2 to find your passion. You have to go work for the man, right? How about you just go be a champion and go be the man like him, okay? Or go own your agency, or go get an insurance agent, own your own block. Like, the naysayers in this space, whether you're in where you're experienced and crazy talented, had you listened to all the negative things going on, would you be where you are now if you listened to that?
Well, the thing is, I did listen for a while, and I think that I just realized you can't really listen to it all. There's some things, don't get me wrong, I don't ever not listen to advice, but it's not always what everybody says it should be. Like, there's a poster that was in my high school, and I mean, you know, who actually looks at the posters in high school? Well, one of them I still remember, because it was one of those things where, I don't know, I was bored in class, probably looked at it, but it said, stand up for what you believe in, even if you're standing alone. And that has always kind of been what I try to live by. Because, and in my opinion, no one else knows what's right for you better than you. Now, sometimes you might lead yourself down wrong paths if you don't make the best decisions, but at the end of the day, you're the only person that knows what's going to make you happy. And sometimes you got to be willing to listen to yourself.
Absolutely. It's like, you know, you're not going to make both of you happy. You might as well make one of you happy. That's you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like, laugh at your own jokes, right? Every now and then it's like, hey, how funny.
Yeah.
That's so solid. So you doing this, I mean, obviously you're an independent business owner. Any questions you ever have of me of any weird stuff? I know we chat quite a bit offline, but any weird questions you have of what us weird insurance agents do for a living, or?
Well, I mean, one thing I'm kind of curious about is, I've been hearing that healthcare costs are going to expect them to increase 500% over the next 10 to 20 years. I've heard that. Is insurance, I mean, I'm sure insurance is going to go up with that, but do you see an end in sight? And is there anything we can do about it? Or like, because insurance is expensive, and health insurance especially.
And it's brutal. You know, it is. I pay the same premium that my clients do. I pay the same exact premium. I think it's doggy poop. You know, you and I've had discussions about this too offline, but you know, in the Affordable Care Act, wink, wink. No, it's not affordable. Okay. For people that work. It's not affordable at all, but they call it the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. Pick your pleasure. It's the same dang thing. My rates have done nothing but skyrocket. They just have. So it's like, until they like get rid of some things or some regulation happens, I only see premiums going one way, and that's up, unfortunately. And I hate it. Okay. I run a national insurance agency jasonfinalexpense.com. But let me tell you, I hate it. And I'm the agency owner. I pay the same premiums for my wife and beautiful kids that everybody else does. And it's expensive, right? I mean, it isn't cheap. Ethan, do you like paying your premiums for healthcare? Is it a real fun trip when you look at how much they charge you?
No, I mean, well, to be honest, I don't actually have insurance technically.
Right.
I have I'm through Medicare.
Yes.
Because I'm a single guy. I rarely go to the doctor, and it makes sense for me. But I mean, at some point, I mean, you know, when you get older, you start having more health problems, typically, just statistically. And at some point, I'm going to probably have to get more legit insurance. And that stuff is actually decent, but
it is.
I mean, do you see the rates being about that, like 500% ish in the next 10 to 20 years? Or is it hard to really speculate?
I wouldn't ever say 500% because they haven't escalated to that level. It's a fairly minimal increase. Everything is everybody state by state basis. Okay. So anybody, myself included, we're talking big picture here. Everything is a state by state run because each insurance commissioner regulates the state for the rates. So everything is state specific. So if you need help, reach out. I'll help you in any way I can. But in this question, I wouldn't say 500% by any stretch, but it is slowly rising. Some years you may have an 8% increase in rates. Maybe another year you got a 10% increase in your rates. The biggest thing to watch is your deductibles. What's what I call a MOOP? Okay, sounds like a poop, but might as well be just as poopy. It's called a MOOP, maximum out of pocket. That's what MOOP stands for. Look at the maximum out of pocket. Sometimes you're paying $1,000+ a month in premium for a nice family. But if somebody gets sick, that's when the ugly side comes. So if you do something stupid to your body, like I do on occasion, hurting myself, okay, playing with fun things, as Ethan knows, it's what it is. That's when it gets ugly. And you go, thank God I have insurance, right? Insurance isn't designed for when we're healthy. Insurance is designed for when we're sick. But I can't see the rates jumping astronomically to 500%, and especially if the government gets rid of some ACA junk. Like if the government gets rid of ACA, if they make it so that, for example, a healthy person like Ethan here would be able to get health insurance through his own health, instead of saying the insurance company doesn't get to ask you health questions. We're going to let everybody in the walls. That's why your rates are so stinking high, because at open enrollment, it says, if you got a pulse, we'll take you. No health questions asked. The premiums were in half, and sometimes a third of what we pay now. And it's because with the Obamacare Act and ACA, it's like one time a year, you be bleeding out of your eyeballs, and that insurance company has to take you. Of course, the rates are high. You know, we've got folks from out of state, right, that prior to the Obamacare, people in other states before it got enacted, they'd come over with crazy diseases and just be like, hey, if the state guarantees me to issue, I'm going to get insurance in that state because my state won't allow me coverage. That's kind of what happened prior to. So responsible people had a good rate and a really good plan. Irresponsible, folks that didn't have any form of insurance, those are the ones that got really slapped hard before Obamacare, which is sad, right? But at least it was affordable.
Yeah.
So, and I'm one that, you deserve to make whatever decision you want to make as a consumer, period. It's no big deal. And I got, the Medicare route when you're young and healthy, there's lots of other options, not a bad option. And it's not like you can't jump right on the wagon if you needed something next year. So but the rates, they're ugly. I hate them. I can't apologize for them. Won't even apologize for it a little bit. I don't like it. And I own an agency. I pay the same rate. I don't get a discount.
Well, the last question I have for you, it's another insurance question, actually, because it's kind of interesting. So the state I live in, Louisiana, all insurance is high, but the auto insurance is insane. I moved from Washington State and moved to Louisiana, and my insurance doubled. I've never, knock on wood, had a ticket, nothing, never had a wreck even. I've hit a couple deer, that's it. But what's that?
If you hit those deer, I'm saying the deer hit you.
Well, actually, one of the deer did hit me. He ran into me.
Right.
and no, but my rates doubled, and I still have cheaper insurance than anybody I know. And I think it's insane. But I mean, the biggest problem that apparently is that so many people are down here with insurance, without insurance. What in your opinion is the fix for that to help our insurance costs down here come down?
The biggest thing is get those uninsured motorists in a place where they own insurance, right? Or having some enforcement in your state that says, listen, if you don't have insurance, we take your car, right? Because in certain states, like, my state, if you don't have insurance to a certain level, they got enforcement things that do not make you happy. So they don't allow you to go about without insurance. You're getting major fines, major slaps on the hand. That helps. So it's possible that your state doesn't have certain things in place to enforce the uninsured. So it allows people to kind of have a free for all, which then unfortunately you end up paying a much higher premium because these people that hit you aren't insured. So your insurance company has to eat it. If you got higher uninsured motorists,
that's over half of what my auto insurance is uninsured motorists.
And that hurts. So it's state driven disciplinary actions, which is going to be through your own state, having the insurance commissioner help, but ultimately it's your local government enforcing and putting things in play. But to get your rates cheaper, check multiple companies, get multiple quotes. I'm a broker, so I shop lots of different companies and know people. I do not do house and home insurance. Okay. I care about people, but I don't do that. I do health and life. But when you're dealing with car insurance, you want to have multiple quotes. Check USAA, check the Geico's, the American Family Insurances, check a bunch of them. It's the same widget. It really is. You just want to see who's the best handshake in that area because there is a disparity, same coverage, different price, right?
Yeah.
It's same exact insurance. I don't care what it looks like. Right? That card in my wallet is no different if that cop knocks on my door and I'm speeding. Okay, I just hand it to him and go, here you go. And they take care of my car if I ding it, no different than any other company for the most part. So I would just shop it through some good people or have a good broker, Ethan, like look at that for you and at least try to drop your rates and definitely review that every 12 months on the car insurance side. Because car insurance is a commodity product. It's not like life insurance where you buy it once and it's like Ron Popeil's chicken. If you bought whole life, you set it and forget it. Guaranteed rate lock, guaranteed death benefit, nothing moves. Most honest handshake in the industry. Health insurance and car insurance and even home insurance, it's like a Rubik's Cube of rates. Every 12 months, you got to keep tuning it up. Just like your heavy machinery, sometimes you got to go in there and tweak it a little. On the insurance side for you, I would definitely encourage you to just like once a year, as boring as it is, maybe like every year when you do your taxes, it's a pain in the butt to do your taxes, right? Just do that when you do it your taxes and just see.
Add more stuff not fun to something already not fun.
Right. I'm here to make your life happy. You ask the question. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's it. So awesome, buddy. Well, Ethan, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for your time with us today. For everybody, go to eleecustomknives.com. All the information will be in the description. Ethan is an absolute man of character, but more importantly, you check his stuff out. Ridiculous stuff. I appreciate his words of wisdom today. Definitely applicable, hopefully, to the insurance industry. So thank you for your just wisdom today. And I appreciate you being with us. Thank you for the friendship and the dang good work that you do. Keep winning. Winning does matter. Ethan,
absolutely. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Have a great one, you guys. Thanks for watching.